All right, so again, my name is Shaundra Daly. I am in my third year as an assistant professor at Clemson in Juan's division. I'm actually in electrical engineering, just to give you some perspective on the diversity of people that we have in the department that are doing human-centered computing research. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about a project that's in its very early stages. So in order to kind of couch the conversation, I need to give you a little bit of history about where the idea came from, just so the rest of what I say makes sense. So just as an overview, I'm going to talk about, I did my graduate studies at MIT. I finished in 2011. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about an organization we had there called ICBME. And then I'm going to move into what we're currently doing, which is the focus really at the top. So just real quick, the MIT student demographics. So this is, I think these are the 2011 or 2012 numbers, but they're applicable to when I was there as well. So in total, 11,189 students. 4 of those are undergraduate students, 6,000 of those are graduate students. If you look at the male-female split, we're talking about 31% female. The minority, 585. So if you go back to 6,000, so out of 6,000 graduate students, minority total. So we're talking about African American, Hispanic, Native American, and then people who identify as other. We're including in the minority numbers. If you look just at African American, the year I was looking at was 119. Actually, when I was there, I think we had 109 African American students, which is 1% of the total population, about 1.7% of the graduate population. If the female-male split applies to this, which I don't think it does, we're looking at like 37 African American females and the rest males. So we're few and far between, to say the least. So ACME is for Academy of Courageous Minority Engineers. Over the 3-year span, there's a paper that, it's covered, you can't see it. So there's a paper that we wrote in 2007 for the American Society of Engineering Education, talking about this model, and we were looking at 3 years worth of participation, which included like 20 to 25 students at any given session, which I'll explain that in just a second. There were 4 to 10 students. We came from very diverse backgrounds. Again, I'm electrical engineering, computer sciences, mechanical engineering, ocean, health sciences and technology, biology, operations research, brain and cognitive science, and media arts and science. So all STEM fields, even though media arts and sciences don't sound too much like it, but all STEM fields and all minorities. We had 2 main things that we did. We had accountability Thursdays, which will be the focus of what I talk about today, and lunch series. At our lunch series, we basically had a speaker that came from our group. So if you needed to practice your dissertation proposal defense, your dissertation defense, or you were going to a conference, this was a setting where we brought in food and you had time to share and get feedback from your peers. So accountability Thursdays, we had weekly meetings, we had dinner. That was a very important piece, and I need to contrast that with what I'm going to talk about in a second. We had goals discussions, so I'll show you the system in a second. We had an online system that supported you in tracking goals. So you would go in, you would put your goal in, you could mark it as completed or abandoned, and you had to stand up on Accountability Thursday and actually discuss what you had accomplished, what you had not accomplished, and what was going to be your steps to get where you needed to go. And then we also had a presentation. So smaller than the lunch series format, but we still had opportunities to practice whatever we had coming up. So here's the system. It is not user-friendly. So now being in a human-centered computing division that looks at usability aspects of technologies, it worked for techie folks. That's all I'll say. But again, you can, is this on the phone? Okay, the pointer code. It has something that just, come back. Voila, process. Okay, so you could create goals here. These dots are telling you how long it had been. since you put that goal in, and they would actually flash. So the longer it is, the more flashing you had. You could give members feedback, you see at the top, let people know who's coming to the meeting. We had changing leadership, so each week someone was responsible for coordinating the food and also coordinating the speaker for the week. Our graduate, this is probably pretty unique, our graduate students department at the time was all African American. And so they had a lot of initiatives for minorities, that from the dean to the assistant dean to the associate dean. And so they actually supported financially all of our food. So we would buy food, they would reimburse us, which was very nice. You could give comments on goals, and then again, tagging people, you could look at the statistics of people completing their goals and such. All right, so that's the context again, right? So this year, Juan, myself, and some other co-PIs at other universities were awarded a 5-year, $5.4 million grant from the National Science Foundation for the Institute for African American Mentoring in Computing Sciences. And it's all about increasing the pipeline. Juan showed you the numbers from the Tolby survey. So you guys already have a sense of how few and far between folks are in the computing science. So this project is all about increasing that pipeline. Some of the things that we're doing, faculty and student training. So what does it mean to be a mentor? What does it mean to be mentored? Academic research grants, so faculty can actually apply to have money to do research and support students in that way. DREU program is similar to the academic research grants during the summer, so students actually go to other universities. Hopefully they're matched with a mentor who looks like them and get an opportunity to do research in computing. Technical webinars, that can be anything from how to navigate graduate school to actually the nitty-gritty of computer science topics. The Distinguished Fellows Writing Workshop, that's all about helping students to get fellowships. Taught Celebration of Diversity in Computing, that's a conference that happens each year, and we have funding in the grant to actually send students there. Robotics competitions, and then peer mentoring. So the peer mentoring component is what I'm going to be responsible for, the other stuff too, but primarily responsible for, and the grant, and this is what is being influenced by ACME that I just spoke about. All right, so one of the things I'm doing, I have a class, I'm teaching our fundamentals class in human-centered computing, and I actually have groups of students who are assigned to look at the issue around student isolation and goal setting. And so they've gone through a whole human-centered design process. I didn't show them the old ACME system because I didn't want to bias them, but I wanted to take them through a process of designing a new system that could support students in being accountable, that could support students in not being isolated, and that could be distributed so that you could actually work with students at other places. So there's some of the features based on this new design to contrast it with the old one. The goals in the old system, you could just put in a goal, there was no subtasks, there was nothing connected. Most people are familiar with SMART goals. Yeah, okay. Long-term and short-term goals, learning how to prioritize those types of things, as well as project information. So actually connecting goals to larger projects, so being able to see how what you're doing impacts other people. So those are some of the things that we're going to change in this new system. Research-wise, some of the things that we need to pay attention to. Thank you, Brian Marks, for a conversation yesterday, helping me continue to think through these things. But creating a culture of accountability. The accountability has come up a lot yesterday. How do you do that? How do you keep people accountable, which is exactly what we did when we were doing ACME. Developing the skills to be strategic about goals. And so, it's one thing to have a goal system, it's another to really know how to go in there and put in goals and actually work towards them and accomplish them. Sustaining motivation. So NSF is not going to fund food. To be completely honest, my key motivation in attending Accountability Thursdays as a person who can cook but does not like to, and who had a young child, 2 young children in graduate school, was so that I didn't have to cook on Thursdays. So, but we need motivation. beyond food if we're not going to have food. So how do you get people motivated to use the system? How do you get it to be meaningful to their context? And then scaling to other institutions. The vision that we have for the system is that we'll start at Clemson, since we have such, Juan talked about our numbers, we have such a large population, but how can we then reach out to students who are more isolated at PWIs so that they can have accountability Thursdays or whatever the day is going to be with students who are at remote locations, and how can we support them in that fashion? All right, thank you.